you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
Good day, it's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Today we're going to talk about what a senior officer may be able to do. One thing in particular, I'm sure we'll be able to revisit this eventually later on, that a rookie officer we may not want doing. And it really originates from a dialogue that we crossed into yesterday on Saturday Night Synopsis with William Young. William Young's the host of the show, and Russ shared a story. And then there was a comment from myself in which we both agreed that bargaining with an inmate may be something that really a senior staff member may have to be able to do, because there is some level of control there. We want to make sure that the bargaining doesn't fall into some form of obligation. There's still a level of accountability, and Russ made that clear during his story. But first, before I show you the clips, I am going to show you the clip from Saturday Night Synopsis that actually started this dialogue. We have to wish Russ Hamilton a happy birthday. So I will go ahead and sing it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you,
Happy I'm not done. This is my moment now. I'm kidding. Okay, good. That was a smart move, man. Russ, that was a very smart move. Hey, Russ, do you mind? And by the way, if anybody deserves some happy birthday love, guys, let's give it to our boy, Russ. Hey, Russ, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely, Anthony. My name is Russ Hamilton. I'm a veteran of California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I had 27 years with them, started at San Quentin way back in '89, eventually transferred, promoted, retired, then went back to work for a small juvenile facility here in Northern California. And now I'm, a contributor to Tier Talk, and I have a concern called Keepers of Chaos. We've got over 4,000 members now. So anyway, I'm never going to stop.
Yeah, that Facebook page is, or Facebook group is awesome. A lot of great information, and you are on point with how you moderate it. You make sure it stays professional, and you also allow, as long as they have some respect, you do allow people that aren't just custody in there as well, because you're trying to provide a bigger and better understanding. I just really feel it's just a very well-developed quality community, probably in my opinion, definitely the most active, but in my opinion, one of the best communities out there on Facebook. If you get a chance to join, you should, because Russ puts his heart and effort into it, and it really is a reflection of your work, Russ. It's just an amazing community. And the Tough Mudder, what do we have? Just another reminder.
Oh, yeah. So Keepers of Chaos, in conjunction with Tier Talk, we're getting ready. We're going to do an event. It's going to be a little ways off yet. It's going to be in June. And we're going to have a Tough Mudder team at the Tough Mudder event in Lake Tahoe. I'm hoping that we're going to get people from across the country, at least a few, probably more from California naturally. And then if we can, if the finances and everything align, then we'll try and do an event on top of that. Maybe we can invite a speaker, like maybe the Anthony Gangi guy, or someone like or someone like that. And we'll just see where it leads. But I think the big thing is we'll go up there, we'll take some video, we'll do the race, which is I don't know. I think the last one I did was like 18 obstacles and 12 miles. And it's a grueling event, but it's something that you should start training for now. We're going to be putting out more and more information on that as we get actual dates and as we get actual people who are interested. And we will have a T-shirt that all of the competitors that want to be on the team can get, and going to be releasing the name of our team very soon.
Now, I've been trying my best to work out. I've been playing a lot of virtual reality mountain climbing. I don't know if it's getting me where I need to be, but I think it's going to be a fun event. Even if you can't, just want to make sure people know, if you can't participate, we still want you there. We can meet and greet, chat, and basically it's about us getting to know each other, developing the community outside of social networks. So I think that's great, because that's when you start to see how important what we're doing has become, because it's not just a Facebook or YouTube community. We've now traveled out. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tear Talk show you brave men and women that work in corrections. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. The bell's going to notify every time we post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor, and we come back. We're going to talk about bargaining with an inmate. And I'm going to go to a video real quick first, and then we're going to jump into the dialogue. So stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Guys, inmate manipulation is a course that is highly needed. It's the process that's so slow moving and subtle that you don't realize it's happening. When inmates choose to manipulate, they manipulate our need to react. Situational awareness and insight is going to save your career. It's going to save you from doing foolish things. Listen to your gut. So the more insight we have, the more we can recognize what isn't so overt, and we can correct our behavior before we fall into a trap that we can't get out of. If you allow an inmate to pull you out of your prescribed role, you are opening up a door for a host of problems. Inmate manipulation, the psychology behind inmate manipulation. Available now. Link in description. All right, then we're back. So as I promised, we're going to go to a video. This comes from William Young's show, Saturday Night Synopsis. He does it every Saturday night off Facebook, and I believe he does upload them to YouTube. Now, it was a great question that was posed by William Young because we were talking about the importance of communication. And yes, guys, communication actually has a goal at the end of it. You know, when you communicate, there is an objective, and you want to meet that objective. And for those that can do that through communication without any level of force, bravo, that's a gift. That's a talent. And we made sure we wanted people to know that during that episode. Like, you may not realize as a frontline officer how important communication is until you become a manager, or a supervisor. But I'd like to think that we all agree at this point that communication is key. It gets the job done, because I know when I was a supervisor, Russ will explain it too, that we look for those officers that can communicate, because we don't want to have uses of force, because now the responsibility is on us for everyone. So that officer that's able to accommodate, or that civilian staff member that's able to, you know, have that communication with that individual and de-escalate, I'll tell you something, you have no idea how much we appreciate that. I would like to say at all levels, but definitely from the supervisory level up. So what I'm going to do real quick, guys, is I'm going to share the quick discussion. It's a great question by Will that Russ is going to attack, and watch how Russ attacks this question. There's a finesse that he adds at the end, and I don't even think he realized he added it. And that's what cued me to say, oh, let me go ahead and make sure that I add this. But watch how he said this. Watch how he breaks away from obligation when it came to discussing the bargaining, because they could be very, very close. But okay, let me just share the content.
Hey, Russ, did your foundation, your working relationship that you developed over the years with your population, did it ever get you out of any intense situations because you had that rapport?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, when you have some kind of rapport, and boy, I'm not one of those guys that goes in and I'm building rapport all the time and never getting any of it back. But I could go in and talk to inmates and get them to, do my bidding if necessary. I had one day where I had, I want to say it was probably like 10 or 12 cadets on my yard. And the cadets went into this one dorm. They did a good job of searching and everything. It wasn't perfect, but anyway, they all came out. And guess what? One of the cadets was missing his flashlight.
Oh.
And so, anyway, that was a bad situation. The worst thing about it is that we had ended up generating some fairly low level disciplinary reports over some things that were found in there. Nothing earth shattering. But you know what? I knew that it was going to turn into a big thing about having to do mass searches and everything. And so I went to the inmates. I said, hey, look, pretty much I taught the cadets what they needed to know today. Now I'm going to teach them a really valuable lesson about communication. That is, if you guys are all on the same page with me. So what I need is that flashlight and some of this other stuff that happened today. We're going to find a way to hold you guys accountable and yet make sure that it's just a lesson learned for you and that you're not hurt on the paper side of it. And so I got the flashlight back within about 2 minutes, and it came in handy. I don't bargain with everything in that. I don't bargain for inmates to behave themselves, but sometimes there's a time and place where you have to pull out all the stops to be able to move the chains forward.
But see, here's the problem, Russ, and a lot of people. I don't know if a lot of people watching this would say that, but when you're talking about bargaining, and I know that there's someone that'll listen to this that'll be like, oh, I would have just shook down the shit again, and I would have. But here's the thing, you have to have a working relationship with the population. You're outnumbered all the time, and you cannot force a group of individuals to do anything if you don't have that mutual respect. I mean, you can force them, I guess, but it's a lot easier to just communicate, to talk, and ultimately at the end of the day, if I get what I want from it, cigarette lighters, cigarettes, the flashlight, whatever it is, then I feel like I won, right? I mean, there's a lot of officers that I encounter that if they don't end up on the ground in handcuffs, they don't feel like they won. And I think that we have to change that mentality a little bit, because that's kind of a dangerous situation.
Okay, now, by the way, we did a show recently where I want people to realize something, too. There's stuff that senior officers can do that rookies can't do.
Right, right.
And I think part of this here is also here. I like the word bargaining as opposed for favor. Russ was still able to take control of that interaction with that inmate, by saying, okay, we'll do this, and in return, maybe I'll see what I could do here and there. But the last thing you want is to go up and say, hey, give me the flashlight, and then they give you the flashlight. Now you're, in debt to the inmate. Russ quickly balanced that out. I want people to make sure they see that in the dialogue that we just had, where Russ said this, give me the flashlight, and this is what we'll do with what we're here. And that's within Russ's discretion as a senior officer to do that. I just want to make sure that we get it out there that at no time we want to be obligated. And that's why Russ was quick to put that secondary. I don't want people to miss that. The secondary action, which I feel is a discretion from a senior officer, and they have an ability to, I think they have more of an ability to do that because they've developed some more experience. I mean, Russ, that's why you particularly put that in there, correct?
Yeah, I can't put myself in a position where I'm bargaining with inmates all day, all the time, because I won't do that. I know that some people don't like to think of this as an adverse relationship, but it really is, because ultimately I'm going to have things happen on that unit that are going to be, in terms of life and death and riots and stabbings and assaults and all kinds of things. So I can't go down that road. If the road I choose is to be, a hard-ass asshole all the time, I'm not going to make much headway on doing some of the other things and keeping things safe. I'm not going to be able to develop sources. I'm not going to be able to, have, inmates be more compliant. And I'm going to be fighting a really strong headwind all the way.
But first off, I thought that was just something we never touched on before. And I don't think that you realized how natural that came off. Like, we talk about manipulation all the time, Russ. So I think without you maybe realizing it, how you just basically said that even in the bargaining, they're going to be held accountable. You weren't giving them a get out of jail free card, because that's where the favor for the favor, that's where, to me, it was like, okay, that would be a concern. But the moment you added that, it was like, okay, so he neutralized it. But let's talk about real quick the differences between what would have been seen as bargaining or others could be seen as, were you asking that inmate for a favor?
Yeah, Anthony, it comes down to just how you run your unit day in and day out. it becomes a situation where, you know, you can be that supervisor, you can be that manager of that yard, where everything is a bargaining relationship with the inmates, and slowly but surely, or maybe even quickly, you will lose control of that unit completely, because then the inmates are in charge. There is a time and place, though, where you might not have any choice, or the choices that you might have might not get the result in the amount of time that you have to get it, or in the manner in which you want to get it. So, you know, you have to build that rapport. And, you know, you heard me allude to it there. I'm not that guy that goes in and I just build rapport all the time, because I've had supervisors that have done that. I've had peers that do that. And when you ask them, what are you doing? Talk to that inmate and bargaining like that. Well, I'm building rapport. I said, well, no, you're setting us up into a position where that's all we're ever going to be doing is building rapport. Everything that we do in corrections, I mean, whether you like to hear this or not, and I'm going to tell some people out there that aren't going to like to hear this, is backstopped by the use of force or the threat of the use of force. But the backstop is not where we want all of our incidents and all of our interactions to go. We want to be that catcher that stops those incidents from having to get there. We're not going to get to all of them, though, so we have to be realists. And there is a time and there is a place where you have to be willing to bargain with the inmate. Now, does that mean you relieve them of responsibility, or you let them get over on you, or you don't hold them accountable? No. There might be elements of those things where you have to concede depending on what the situation is, but you have to go in there with a smart mind and be able to understand what you're doing, to not lose, to not lose basically your reputation, and not lose the relationship you have, and not lose any, and I hate this word, mutual respect that you've built up.
Well, you clearly stated that you had control of the dialogue, which was seen. I mean, that's the key. I also like to think it's not something for rookie officers to really jump in and start doing, because, again, they haven't developed that rapport. And even though they may think they're bargaining, the inmate's going to get the better hand. Again, inmates are experts at what they do. But for your case here, you had control. There was an end to what you wanted. You had a goal that you wanted to accomplish, and it was accomplished. And the thing is that the way you had control, I think, was that the inmates could have been held accountable at a higher level. But instead, you're still going to be held accountable. You know, again, the level of control's there. But if you don't give it back, that's going to determine, I guess, by us not getting that flashlight back, that's going to determine that a level of accountability. So never once was accountability ever taken off the table. So that's where I thought it was unique that you never moved. Like in that bargaining, you stayed true to where it was. You set the standards. The inmate came back and gave the flashlight. There wasn't a kick back and forth. There wasn't an inmate that came back to you and said, well, if I do give it, I want no accountability. You never said that. It was like, no, this is where we're at now, because what was implied was, I don't get it. We're going to rip this place up, and we're going to come after everyone. That's implied. No need to reiterate that. You know, we know what the first level of that bargaining was. I just wanted people to know that, because the end result is, if you have someone else that tries to do that, because we do bargain, you're right. It's how we get through the day sometimes, but that bargain is totally different than obligation. Like if an inmate came up to me later on, like if that same inmate that you dealt with, Russ, came up to you later on and said, hey, remember when you needed that flashlight and I came through for you? You could easily say, really? Because you could have been held at a higher charge. So I played my part, because that feeling of obligation pressures people. So if that inmate was to come out and play you like that, what would be that response?
Yeah, that's why you have to be so cognizant of what you're doing and what you're saying and how you're carrying it out. I liked what you said about, the inmates recognize where it's going, even if it doesn't ever go there. If you establish yourself, those inmates, they already knew what was coming if we didn't go in there and we didn't hash out whatever was going on there. They knew me. They knew the way I run the unit. They have an idea, at least, of what's coming if they don't give up that flashlight. But for me to have to go in there and, run a campaign versus, run a campaign versus just a dialogue, well, the dialogue was easier. We had it happen faster. We didn't accrue overtime. I didn't have admin breathing down my neck for results. I resolved it quickly. So was it a win-win? I'd say it was a win-null for them. We got the flashlight back, and you know what? We can go back another day and tune that dorm up, and no one's ever going to, be any the wiser, because they're going to realize that, I towed the line, and they had to back away from it.
Right. Now, for those that would argue, mind you, this was non-emergent. I mean, this wasn't like the loss of a key where it could be copied, and at that point there would be no dialogue here. We're ripping the unit down, and then obviously we're changing all the locks. I mean, we all know that. But this was just a regular dialogue that came out of us discussing the importance of communication. But another thing that played out too, before we come to a close, is Russ's rapport with the inmate, the integrity that they hold Russ to. So having said that, think about this though. They know that Russ could take it up a notch, and they don't want that. But they also know Russ is a man of his word that's going to stand by the fact that, okay, guys, I'll give you a level of accountability, but we'll minimize it a bit. Give me what I need. So the level of trust that they have, or consistency in regards to how Russ operates, carried a lot of weight in regards to that inmate just dropping off that flashlight and being done with it, as opposed to, I'll guarantee you right now, there will be no inmate that will come up to Russ later on and try to utilize that to bargain favor. Hey, Russ, remember that time I helped you? It wouldn't happen, because Russ had that nip right at that moment when he said, this is what you're going to be held at, as opposed to this. I mean, they knew. So again, a lot of stuff went into play there, but it was the communication and rapport. And it's not really something I would recommend a rookie officer to get involved with right away, because again, you haven't developed that rapport. The inmates don't know who you are. So if they even go out of their way to help you, that's going to be a little unique, because you know damn well they're going to try to get something from you back. And I think that's just something that comes through just time and experience. It's not something that you're just going to be able to pick up and do, because there's a lot of variables in play. Would you agree with that, Russ? I mean, what would you think if a rookie officer that was watching that video thought that they could do the same exact thing on their first day of the job that you just did?
Absolutely. They can't do it, because they haven't established themselves. I'll tell you right now that inmates, when they see somebody that's new, they view them as an unknown quantity and a potential mark. And so there's going to be a lot of testing. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. There's going to be a lot of issues that are going to come between that rookie and the inmate population before people decide what kind of an individual that person is, and how they can deal with them. And so they're not going to deal with someone that they don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so they may as well go for broke and just push that person as hard as they can. At least they'll learn something about that individual, whether he pushes back or whether he just takes it and caves.
Well said, Russ. Do you have anything you'd like to say in closing, just to wrap up the quick dialogue?
Yeah. So basically, when you look at situations like this, understand that corrections is one of those things where for everything there is a season. There's a time maybe for some bargaining like that. There's also a time to be hard as nails and to use unsoft words to get your point across. And maybe even it goes to use of force. But use of force isn't every day. It's not every situation. It's not everything. But neither is bargaining or taking the soft route. You have to know when and where to use those things. You have to wear many hats. You have to be able to find your way and to try and, rely on that backstop of force, that backstop of harshness, that backstop of tactics versus strategy in the least number of ways possible. But that doesn't mean it's not there, and it doesn't mean that we don't rely on it. So, be wise, be smart. This is a game of chess. It's not checkers. It's not tiddlywinks. So just, be a smart correctional officer.
Russ, you named two games that dated you there, brother. You said tiddlywinks.
I know I did.
I have I have not seen.
birthday today.
You just aged yourself with that tiddlywinks. That was hilarious. No, so but I agree. And as I said, just the end result here is that when we had the dialogue, just to let you know that it was an officer that had already established rapport. They were in control of that communication. The inmates already knew what standard it could have gone to. And at all times, there was a level of control. And it's not, and like Russ said at the end, it's not something that's utilized all the time, but definitely within that discretion. Like, okay, guys, stop playing around. Give me the flashlight. This is what's going to happen. And at no point did the inmates were not held accountable. They knew it was coming. And again, if the inmate was to come back and say, hey, I did this for you, you're going to do this for me, negative. Because everything in Russ's conversation and dealing with that inmate ended that feeling of obligation. And it was like, this is what's going to happen, but still in that level of control. It wasn't something wiped out. It's like, hey, give me the flashlight and we'll forget this existed. He never said that. Give me the flashlight. You're still going to be held accountable, but we're going to figure out that level of accountability depending on how much time it takes for me to get that damn flashlight back. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.
Whoa.